ICQ Podcast episode 463, Handheld LCR Meter. Well, hello everybody and welcome to episode 463 of the ICQ Amateur Ham Radio Podcast, supported this episode by our monthly and annual subscription donors. In this episode we join Martin, M1MRB, Frank, K4, Foxtrot Mike Hotel, Bill, Whiskey Charlie 3 Bravo, and Leslie, Golf Zero Charlie India Bravo, to discuss the latest Amateur Ham Radio news. Myself, Colin, M6BRY, rounds up the news in brief, and this episode's feature is a handheld LCR meter. Well, as always, we'd like to thank our annual and monthly subscription donors who kindly send us their support every single month and yearly to help us pay our way and keep your ICQ podcast advert free. If you find value from today's show, we ask you to consider going to ICQPodcast.com/donate and turn that value into a monetary amount and select one of the options to send it our way. We really would appreciate your support. So that's ICQPodcast.com/donate. Well, now we're going to join Martin, Frank, Bill and Leslie to discuss and generate thoughts about the latest Amateur Radio news, including National Coding Week activities and South Florida pirate arrested. As always, hope you enjoy.
So hi guys, and welcome to the ICQ Podcast News Roundtable for episode 463. Tonight, only a short number of us. We're 2 down tonight, but at least Bill made it. Bill got called away early on, but we've waited for you, Bill, so it's good to have you. Let's see who we got. Going over to the States, we got Mr. Frank Howell, K4FMH.
Hey, Martin. Hey, everybody. It's another great time to be with you guys, and I look forward to it.
Yeah, I always look forward to our discussions. It's great fun. Also, your side of the pond with Mr. Bill Barnes, WC3B. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Martin. Good evening, everybody.
Yeah. Now, I've got to tell you, you may be doing an impersonation of Leslie. G0CIB with Mr. Leslie Butterfields with us, aren't you, Leslie?
G0 Cashing Bank. Yes, it's me. Of course, it's me. Good evening, everyone.
Yeah. But, Bill, if you hadn't come on, the boys were going to do an impersonation of you, so...
Okay, now I'm curious.
Oh, never mind. So
it would begin, Bill, with "Sup."
That's about right.
Yeah. Oh, boys, let's not get too deep. But we have fun, and if we can't laugh at ourselves, then who can we laugh with? So there you go. Okay, first news story. 2 new RSG activities for National Coding Week. And I think these are interesting little ways of doing things, and it gets people active. Leslie, it's a UK story. Do you want to go first?
There's 2 stories. One on the Python Pocket Morse activity, which is developed by the RSGB maker champion Tom Wardill, 2E0JJI. And it's a low-cost opportunity to learn Morse code and programming together. And the exercise covers a BBC little microbit, V2, and more advanced Python programming instead of the previous block programming mode. It's meant to be a sort of general introduction to Python, and it's also good for amateur radio. That's the first one. And the other one is the LoRa Balloon Challenge, which it talks about the process of building your own LoRa tracker and seeing how far the signal can reach. These are on the RSGB website. I think it's a cracking idea. Oh, I should mention that Fraser MM0EFI, he actually demonstrates the process of putting the tracker together. So anyway, these 2 things are on the RSGB website. I think it's a cracking idea. I remember Mark, who I used to work with, was very much into balloons, and I followed it on the website when he was at the school letting the balloon go off. So I think these are 2 really good projects for people to get their teeth stuck into. Over to you, Martin.
Yeah, I think you're right. And one of the things I wished I could do, I'm not a programmer, computer programmer. This is just something my brain doesn't want to work on. But I've tried Python a few times and I've had a few little successes, but I wouldn't say I'm good at it. Frank, what's your thoughts on this one?
Well, I think that for a national society to organize these activities is what they should be doing. I've been very impressed with Steve Thomas, the general manager at RSGB, and the activities that the management is doing to communicate their plans, like strategic plans. And Martin, I know the podcast did a great interview during the annual meetings and all that, but I want to give them their applause because I think they deserve it. This is a focused activity that here on the podcast, we've talked about the decline in opportunities for practicals, for doing the stuff that they learn in taking their license exam. I think Bill would probably agree. Some clubs over here follow up very well with that. Most don't. And we don't have a practical part of our examination process. So this one is very focused on developing programming skills. And just think what different software programs has done to enhance our day-to-day operations. So getting people engaged, like with the Python, that's great. Not everybody does Morse, but it doesn't matter. But that's a good one to focus on to get them both involved in Morse operating as well as programming. The balloon challenge is incredible. What young person doesn't like a balloon, particularly where you can track it and send it off into space? So I just say bravo to this. I think it's what national associations should be doing, and it's great to see them doing it.
Yeah, I thank you on that, Frank. And I know you said earlier on you looked on Amazon. Other places are available to get the little BBC microbits.
I did, and they also have a club pack where you can get 10 of them. And so I think the way BBC is marketing this out to Amazon and perhaps others, it's great because it reduces that obstacle that so many things like this have. But I can't find the thing I've got to get. And it's hard to beat Amazon.
Yeah. As I say, if you can buy a pack of 10 and you're going to do this at your club or with a group of people, that's probably the best way to do it. Bill, what's your thoughts on this? Because I think you can probably program, can't you?
Yeah, I may get paid for that occasionally in my day job. National Coding Week takes place the third week of September, and the RSGB is dedicating the whole month to amateur radio and coding. So I spent a lot of time reading this article last night because I got really into it. The first one, Python Pocket Morse Trainer, it is low hardware, relatively inexpensive, but it really does give you a really good programming with Python, programming a board overview, and you get something you can actually use afterwards. So that one's solid good. The LoRa balloon tracker, that is a way more intense exercise, and I would love to hear from listeners who them or their club actually go through it. In fact, there's so much stuff here to do. They actually are offering a prize for RSGB members that...
Yes, I did see that. Yes.
Yeah, competing, and also for an affiliated club, because you're building, a tracker for a balloon, you're programming it up, and you're also, using an SDR to listen to it. It is like the whole start to finish on the whole balloon tracking part of our hobby. This checks almost all the boxes. It is just a phenomenal activity. And I'm really excited and optimistic based on the RSGB. They put a lot of work into this to get this ready. They have it set for uplink frequency of 439.850 with a downlink of 433.850. Is that one of the license free bands in the UK? Or is it 70 SEMS over there?
Sorry, what was that, Bill?
433.850, 439.850. That's in the 70 SEMS band over there, right?
Yes.
Okay,
I'd need to check, but I believe so, yes.
Yep. And it's actually overlaps with the key fobs. 433.850 is in the unlicensed part of the band.
Oops.
So anyone can do this. So this is an amazing, awesome opportunity for folks to experiment a little bit over there in the UK. And I hope we hear a lot of clubs and people actually giving this a shot, because it does look like a lot of fun. It's 25 pages and the directions are pretty clear, and they offer some guidance at different points on how to do some other things, like, get a little gain antenna to help receive, and it's really neat.
Bill?
Yes?
I did look. There's something you mentioned earlier about a prize, the prizes that are given. As you were talking, I was reading about it, and it said there's two competition categories. Single RSGB member operators, £200 Moonraker voucher, and the RSGB affiliated club is another £200 Moonraker voucher. So there's significant prizes, for people that do well in this.
Yeah, it is. I suspect Moonraker has sort of come in with them a little bit on that, Leslie, just a guess.
Yes.
But this is just the way to do things. I'm a fanboy on this one.
Yeah. Encourages people into the hobby, gives them a little project to do, and we all learn things from those projects. It's great. It's win-win.
And for those of us that are stateside, we are looking at our national organization and wondering why they are not doing something like this in the makerspace. Aren't we, Frank?
Yes, we are. I will report on that in what you've been doing, because I went to the Huntsville Hamfest and the ARL forum, so I can update that, Bill.
Right. So, in fairness, I think we think it's a very, very good thing the RSGB are doing. My only downside is I've tried so many times to learn Python, and I don't use it all the time. And if I had a reason for using it, I probably would understand it more. And I think if you're doing it as a group and you've got a final project at the end of it, then I think the RSGB have probably cracked it, because there's a reason to get this to work. There's a reason to understand, because you're going to end up with something in your hand that you built and it works. And the balloon tracking, great on them. I think that's a good one. Right, let's move to our next news story nicely. I wasn't sure if it was this group I did it with or the other group, but we talked about Hamshack Hotline dying and being shut down at the end of August. But another group called Hams Over IP has invited Hamshack Hotline users to apply for a connection to their network. Now,
Martin, to be honest, I've not heard of this before, and I know nothing about it. Can you tell me more, please?
Okay, no problems at all. Very quickly, Hamshack Hotline used to be pretty much a voice over IP service, phone service. So if you had a VoIP phone, you could connect it to your network, your home network. They would give you a phone number, and this was a worldwide phone number for all hams. It was only a ham network, so you had to be a radio amateur to be on it, but you had your phone number, and you could have a phone in your shack, and people could ring you up and say, what are you doing now? If they couldn't hear you on the radio or whatever. And I know back in the day, before my internet provider gave me a bit of a hard time, and I can't do it at the moment, I have had listeners ring me in the shack and say hi and blah, blah, blah. The other thing you could do is you can connect to other services like a repeater. Some people will put their repeaters on via Hamshack Hotline so you could hear what was going on, or BBC World Service. So It was a phone network for hams only, Leslie. So does that explain it?
Yeah, very well indeed, Martin. Like I said, I didn't know anything about it at all, so I learn something new every day. Cheers.
Yeah, so with this new system, would you be interested in giving it a try at some point in time, I wonder?
You haven't seen my shack at the moment. I've got too much stuff. I'm trying to pare some stuff down, but what could I say? Maybe one day.
Yeah. Well, maybe I might have another go at this and get through the carrier grade natting. Right. Bill, what's your thoughts on this one?
It's nice that someone picked up on this and has given this an alternative service for folks to use. I'm not interested in this at all. So I just kind of went, oh, okay, and just moved on.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. Not for everybody. But it's another thing. We all experiment in amateur radio, and not everybody's interested in every area. I understand that. As a side, before I pass it to Frank, it was nice when we were talking about 4 weeks or so ago, and we said that MMDVM project was going to drop M17, and you said, Bill, well, somebody ought to fork it. And within a week, they already had different systems now up for M17 users. So, yeah, we're a technical hobby, that's for sure. Frank, what's your thoughts on this one?
One of the common reactions, and this does not apply to Bill Barnes, but Bill's an extremely knowledgeable person. This would be exceedingly trivial for Bill to acquire, say, a Cisco IP phone, like I have a couple of them, and put them in. So it's not about technical capability on Bill's part. Bill just doesn't see a solution for himself. So the common thing is, here's a solution waiting for a problem. Well, some similar comments were made about APRS when Bob Breninga, now Silent Key, developed that to track a football going from between two service academies. So who knows where this is going to go? The issue with one service going down had to do with cost and, I guess, struggles over who's going to provide one. You know, video stores went through the Betamax VHS issue on protocols and formats. And so one of the problems with standards is you can have so many, right? And at the time, we had multiple phone services like this. So, am I on this one or am I on that one? So a lot of that went on. It happens. Hamshack Hotline is going away. And this is one that is replacing it. I was on their website while the other two presenters were talking about it. They have a nice phone book. And that was a little bit of an improvement over the previous one. So I have a couple of phones. They've gone dormant. They have had a big blinking red light until the plug was pulled on the other end. So I'm glad to see it transition over. And these things cost money. And I suspect they would take a donation. So what I'll probably do, given that I've got the hardware, I'll eventually get over and get a number there and post it. I do think some of the linked repeaters that would do like Brandmeister's hose line, they would put theirs on there, and some scanner services were there if you wanted to dial into it. So there are some solutions that will be useful. I'll have to say I'm a lot like Bill Barnes, though. I'll do it because I've already got it, but it'll have to grow on me, and I'll have to have a use case that will nudge me into actually using it, Martin. So I wish them well. I've got the equipment. I'll probably get my numbers sooner or later, and hey, my phone may ring.
Yeah, like you, Frank, I've got the equipment, and I be shame not to use it. That was the problem. I've got a Grand Stream phone, and I've got a couple of Cisco phones I got given after I bought the Grand Stream phone. But originally I had the main phone for use with voice over IP here as well. So that's what that was all about. Carol didn't like it, so it ended up in the shack. Hi. But there you go. Right. I'll move to our next news story. And US Legacy weather satellites are being decommissioned. And I know NOAA 19 went down early in August, because I know I spoke to Phil down there in Western Australia, VK6ADF, and he was telling me about it. But we're losing a lot of these weather satellites. Bill, do you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, this is kind of expected because they've been launching replacement satellites now for, I'm guessing, 10 years. So they're end of life, so they're going to decommission them, although I didn't see any deorbiting plans yet. They'll probably drop them into Point Nemo when it gets to that point. I think the main issue that folks run into is they've had gear for, in some cases, probably 20 or 30 years, decoding these satellites to get the weather and the images off of them so that they can use them for their own purposes. And the new stuff, I believe, is either encrypted or more difficult to decode. So there's a lot of considerations there. But, I mean, it's not surprising to me based on they got a long use out of some of these because it's like, NOAA 15. I have to look it up here, but I think that one's been up for quite some time. Yeah, NOAA K. And that was launched in 1998. So, yeah, they've really got good use out of these for as much. I mean, because these are polar orbiting satellites. They're not the geostationary ones. They're in, I can't remember the phrase. Sun orbit. No, sun. I'm coming a blank here. Sun synchronous orbit. So it like goes around the planet like, I think it was 99 minutes, 100 minutes, something like that. It's been a while since I tracked any of these and messed with them, but they give you a good view of weather around as it moves around the planet. Actually, the planet moves under the weather. And these things have been around for a long time, and they get just beat with radiation from the sun, especially UV rays. In fact, I think they actually measure UV bouncing off the atmosphere to kind of give us an idea how the ozone layer is working. But yeah, these have a long time frame here, and they really lasted. And so a lot of folks, I think, have been, pulling data off of them daily as they float overhead.
Yeah, well, as I say, there's some interesting ones, and I know a lot of people have sort of decoded these. Phil tells me there are some Russian satellites up there that you can decode as well. Frank, what's your thoughts on these being decommissioned?
Well, I'll give maybe a broader sort of historical view. Our satellite technology is mature enough that stuff's wearing out. And in a way, that's a positive thing because we've been doing it long enough that things do come to an end of life. Now, this is an official decommissioning, and I think there's been some confusion over whether or not the transmitters would be turned off. I think they're going to still be on, from the best I can read. Bill, correct me, if I've missed that from the story. And what that means is that amateur users, that is non-government and others who might use it for pleasure, perhaps for profit too, you just never know, can still receive those data, assuming the transmitters would not be turned off. So I look at it from a historical perspective. Put one caveat: I don't think Voyager 1 will ever die.
No, you're quite right, maybe. I believe NOAA 19, if I recall what Phil was telling me last week, well, that one just went off air. Bang. It was like, so whether it had a failure or whether they shut it down, but it just suddenly went off air. So there you go. Leslie, have you ever done any satellite watching for weather?
No, not at all. I did some satellite work many years ago when I was a member of AMSAT, but that was a long time ago, and I haven't touched it since, to be honest. But when Bill mentioned about 1998, we're now in 2025. That's 27 years. That's a long, long time for a piece of electronic kit. Just think of all the changes in technology in the last 25 years. So it's had its life. They've had their life, and things change. It's unfortunate, but I think things will move on to better things.
Yeah, I think you're right. And nicely, as I say, these things happen, and I suppose we get upset because we get comfortable using bits and pieces, but it wasn't put up there for us amateurs. We find a way on all sorts of things.
Of course we do.
Yeah. Move to our next news story. I'm going to give this one to you, Frank, because you made an interesting statement earlier on about the FCC, but a gentleman in southern Florida who's a pirate radio operator has just...
Martin, I think you just promoted him on his social standing.
Well, probably. All right, then.
He ain't no gentleman.
Yeah. All right. A person, Frank, over to you on this one. A guy has been fined, hasn't he?
Well, I will concede the point and agree with my colleague, Leslie Butterfields. This particular person has had at least 15-year or so history in unauthorized transmissions, as the FCC would call it. And that's a third-degree felony. And anytime that F word is used in court, it begins to be serious. So he's been broadcasting in the Miami area. Now, where you have a metropolitan area with high pop density, it means that for FM, you don't need a lot of power to reach, the same audience. And also where you have a metropolitan area with some cultural diversity, that is, you've got segments of an audience that might want certain programming that they don't get maybe in the mainstream media. But these pirates have a great opportunity, and the equipment is very easy to come by. The bigger picture that Martin was alluding to, and we've talked about it over the years on this podcast, there's the feeling based on news stories that the FCC had to cut field staff and this, that, or the other. Well, who cares? We're just transmitting. They're not going to come find us. Well, Mr. Abdias Dadas, known as DJ AJ, might beg to differ because the fine is pretty significant. I'll let the other presenters pick up on that. But I think this is clearly a case where the FCC dropped the hammer.
I think you're right, Frank. He certainly did. He's not going to pay that one out of his back pocket, is he? Leslie, what's your thoughts on this gentleman?
He's been arrested before, and I'm just trying to find exactly how much he got fined. Found it. He had a fine of $120,000, which is a significant ouch in the pocket. But the FCC have been investigating him over a number of years, 2018 to 2023, and they proposed to increase the fine from $120,000 to $325,000. He must have more money. That's a significant fine. Look, how can I put this? In the UK, you've really got to go out your way to get done for things like this. It's not just a one-off, it's a continuous process. Then somebody reports you to the authorities, and then that takes investigation. It's not like instant soup. It takes a considerable amount of time. I just hope it sends out a signal to everybody else. If he was a youngster, let's say 15, playing about with a transmitter, you can forgive that. You go, come and get your amateur license. Don't do that, please. But this is just like ignoring the rules, if you like, and he's got done. Sorry, I think it's very much self-inflicted. Over to you.
Yeah, well, if he's been caught multiple times, then, you know, you can keep putting the fine up. And if he says he can't pay it, maybe he will end up with a prison sentence. I mean, in fairness, we've got to obey the rules. The rules are put there to help everybody and to make sure we use proper spectrum and keep them clean. But if he's going off and doing whatever he likes,
That's all part of your amateur radio, getting your amateur radio ticket. We understand these things.
oh yeah. Bill, what's your thoughts on this one?
I just don't have any words for this because they've been working on this guy recently, 2018 to 2024, but before that was 2006 and 7. It's like, don't you get the hint here? And it does prove one thing that sometimes I hear folks, especially on various forums on the internet, said, "Oh, the FCC doesn't care." They do care.
Wrong.
Yeah, they're looking for specific stuff first, and this gentleman, I unlike you, I will use the word gentleman because I feel everyone deserves, even him, that basic respect. And either way, it's just horrible. Learn your lesson. Don't transmit. The whole story is just unbelievable that this is still going on.
Yeah, well, I think stupidity is probably the word I'd use, but the guy makes his own choice and he breaks the rules, he gets caught, it hurts him. That's the way life is. Right, moving to our last news story. And Bill mentioned this to me, and I'd also sort of picked this up and thought, is this an April Fool's? No, it's not the middle of April, it's the middle of August. And I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe it isn't. Now, there wasn't a lot to discuss around today, so this guy has come up with a Morse alternative mode for ham radio operators. Now, I'm not going to be the first to say this, so Bill, you are a Morse operator. What do you think?
I think this is crazy. He basically built a 6x6 grid, put letters and numbers in it, and so you send, the first, I guess it's 6 dots, 1 through 6 dots, and then you would send the next 6 dots, and then you would look up on the table, and it would be what it is. So, for instance, example used in the article, if you want to send the letter I, you would send 2 dots, ... for 2, the second row, and then send 3 dots, ... for the third column, and you intersect them on the chart. Now, if that sounds crazy to you, you are correctly understanding the article I've read. And this thing has to be just slow, because you're constantly looking up every letter. But the idea being is that you could sit down and write 1 through 6 on the cross, and then 1 through 6 down, and just fill in the letters and numbers 0 through 9 after Z, and be able to do this. I'm actually shocked someone hasn't built a digital mode yet to do this. to send the rows and then the column number, and then just automatically look it up for you. But either way, it's just, oh man. So like I said, when you first sent this out, I'm like, oh, this has to be a April Fool's prank, but it is not.
Yeah, it's a funny one, Bill, and I thought it was worth us mentioning. I mean, let's be fair. I can't see a lot of use in this, but equally, the guy's done something. You got to give him credit for doing something. He's got off his butt and done something. Leslie, what's your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to find this bit. I had to have a chuckle because I've been reading on the web the link to the website, and it said this mode has its roots in to ancient Greece, and it was a form used in previous century for in-prison communications. So if you get a flashing blue light in Shingford, I know what to use. It did make me chuckle. It reminds me. I'm not going to give too much away, but it reminds me of a certain plastic folder with a piece of cord that I had to have around my neck for many years. I won't be using this, I don't think.
No, I suggest if you're going to learn it, you might as well learn Morse, because otherwise it is so slow. That would be so slow and difficult. Frank, well, I'm not a Morse operator. I don't know if you do a bit, but this looks a bit of a nightmare.
Well, the only Morse I do is with a decoder and a macro keyer, so that wouldn't really count. But one little glib comment is you'd have to be in prison to have time for this. So I get that. I get why it was developed.
I'm done.
It doesn't make a lot of sense to us, with Morse and that kind of thing. But it's very intriguing. I think any of these short form communication tools are interesting. I think Bill hit the nail on the head. Gosh, you could create some sort of digital mode fairly easy with the protocol. But, are we on the cusp of to kind of pound the pot with a wooden spoon of AI? How soon are we going to be that we just speak what we want to send by Morse and AI translates it in a keyer, I don't know. And that's not a dig at Morse. I mean, there's a lot of great Morse operators. One of them, Mike Duke, works on my portable ops team sometimes. And he's been blind since birth. And so he's got a little heightened sense of the ear, and he can dig things out of nothing. So my respect for it. And I've just not gotten to Morse. I'm a little more interested right now in trying to get some satellite communications capability. So Morse is kind of on a priority for me. This isn't. This isn't on any list that I have that has the word to do at the top of it. So I'm a little like Bill in that.
Oh, yeah. Well, look, I'm sorry, sir. You wrote this article. We've had a bit of a giggle at you, but I think you were serious. The gentleman's call sign was Sierra Victor 3 Oscar Romeo Alpha, and I can't see the use of it. However, what I will say is at least you put something out there.
Absolutely.
You've had a thought about it, and you've put something out there.
Totally agree, Martin. Totally agree. I'm kind of having fun with him at his expense, but he's done something, and who knows what will come from it.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
And if nothing else, you've put smiles on at least 4 people's face tonight, and probably a lot more when they hear this podcast. So thank you, sir. Right, that concludes our news stories. Bill, I know you're on a hard stop, so do you want to tell us what you've been up to since the last time we had you on the podcast?
Yes, thank you. I had a holiday in the middle of the last time I was on, so I was away from the shack for over 10 days. So I'm back from that vacation, still continuing onward with my working 100 DXCC countries on CW only. Picked a few more up, and aside from that, I believe I have a club talk to give tomorrow night. Is that still the case?
I hope so, because Mr. Howard isn't able to do it, and you're talking to me again tomorrow night, Bill.
Okay, I'll maybe I should write something out so I know what I'm going to say.
Oh, you're a podcaster. You don't need it. Will you just go for it?
I'll figure something out. No, all kidding aside, I did start on the few slides to focus the conversation for tomorrow. So I do have that club talk tomorrow. So that's exciting as well. And that's it.
Oh, well, I hope you enjoyed your holiday, Bill. And say good to have you back. And it'll be great to talk to you tomorrow night. So that was a great one. That's good. Frank, what have you been up to since the last time we spoke on the podcast?
Well, let me begin by saying that I plan to attend Bill's talk tomorrow night, and I always enjoy when Bill shares his passion for DX and things like that, because I just enjoy hearing Bill talk about that. And I'm looking forward to it, Bill. I've now have the AM broadcast study out in the Spectrum Monitor, and as a result of that, Radio World magazine, where we featured one story, Paul McLean, the editor, invited me to write an op-ed, and I believe he told me this morning by email it's scheduled for the September 1st issue. So it'll get a further hearing, probably get some people jump up and down on my head on it because they just believe AM is dead. It's not. It's changing. And there's just some, my data, which comes from FCC and Edison Research and Nielsen, some of the big boys on tracking things like this. There's just no evidence that it's dying. And I think we've overstated the case. I was very, very flattered that Alan Weiner, who owns WBCQ Shortwave in Maine and some AM stations, wrote me an email that he read the article in Spectrum Monitor and just concurred completely that Stephen King's stations that closed, that got a New York Times article that, kind of opined that AM is dead because the multimillionaire Stephen King, the author, was closing stations because he's losing a lot of money. That is one of the worst performing media markets in the country. So I sort of have a conjecture that it's a market shakeout where some media markets have simply overbuilt the number of stations relative to the current market for ad revenue for them. So we'll see where that goes. My alma mater, Georgia College in Millersville, Georgia, has invited me back for the 50th anniversary of the FM station, originally licensed as WXGC, the slogan 88 Rocks, which is now WGUR, The Noise, with more power and that sort of thing. But it's been around 50 years, and they've invited me to come back and talk to the students there. And they've also asked me to present that AM broadcast study to the School of Communications. So that will be on tap for October 17th. Very flattered. It's always a nice thing that where you got your degree, they ask you to come back and talk to people. So my wife and I plan to attend that. I've been continuing on the workbench doing some things. I got some Barryflex cable run for a 31-foot wire that's up in a tree, and we'll see how that works on 40 meters once I get it pulled through a PVC pipe up into my Hamshack. My main shack's been off the air for a couple of years now, so I've been rewiring it and dealing with some health problems and other things. So I look forward to getting my home station back on the air. That's pushed me to do more POTA type of activity and portable things and build things in that regard. And we were bragging on Amazon during this episode, and I must say I practiced what I opine about. I just had another HT delivered as we've been on here. I bought a B-Tech, which is one of the names for Belfongs, the UV Pro, and I need another HT like some of us like a hole in the head. However, I purchased this one for a specific reason. I do some net control work with the Jackson Amateur Radio Club, and we have decent APRS Digipeater iGate around here, but some of the hams don't have HTs with APRS. So where we have them posted, I have to ask them where they are if they've moved. And we have people who track the end of bike races and foot races. We call those tail end Charlie. And so here is an HT that's about $160, and it does smart beaconing with the latest firmware. So I bought that to test it primarily for a tracker. And I know listeners are going to say, oh, you can do it cheaper. Yes, you can. But what if you put it in a vehicle where the operator doesn't want to have a phone hooked to it, doesn't want to have it plugged into a cigarette lighter, doesn't want to have anything but simply one form factor? And when you start doing the math on parts and building those things, an HT that will do smart beaconing has its own long life battery and is just one box with an antenna. It's probably not a bad way to go. We'll see. I purchased that to show to the Jackson Amateur Radio Club at the meeting Thursday, which will be the Thursday prior to when this episode drops. So hopefully we can get some of that implemented, more little pedestrian stuff. What I plan to do with this HT, however, they've implemented a neat firmware option, so it will do the Doppler VFO shifts automatically using satellites. So it'll be fun, and hey, who doesn't need another HT? Martin, that's kind of what I've been up to.
Well, you've been busy, Frank. You've been busy, so that's a good one. And I know you. I know it's at Huntsville. You didn't mention that, so.
Well, I didn't, but thank you for mentioning that. If I can add one more paragraph,
go on then.
I did. I did attend Huntsville, and I want to apologize to those listeners who stopped me and mentioned it. I was not in a place where I could write your call down. I don't want to mention anybody because I'll leave somebody out. There were at least a dozen who grabbed my arm, who met me, spoke to me, saw my orange shirt with my name and call sign, and said very nice things about the podcast. And so to each one of you, and for all of us, thank you for that. That means a lot when you work every 2 weeks to, as Martin and Colin do, to put out an episode. And those of us who are presenters every other week or every other fortnight, we greatly appreciate that. Picking up on Bill's question earlier in the podcast, I attended the ARRL forum and the NARA, another group's forum. And I'm sorry to report that it was almost a bit of a debacle for the ARRL. It was the Southeast Division official convention, and the director there was just so demeaning to members and any criticism, even calling for the firing of the president of the Atlanta Radio Club because they canceled their Hamfest. I mean, it was just very unlike anything I've seen from the ARRL. The CEO was there, and he didn't take any questions. I have to just be honest, from a journalistic perspective, there was just some things that happened there that just won't do well for membership. They admitted they're losing about 1,000 members a month, and yet there seems to be no interest in stopping the bleeding. Now, having said that, I went to the National Association for Radio Amateurs or something like that. I apologize to Michael Turner, who's the head of that, for maybe botching the name of that. But that was their first official national rollout of that new upstart group. And he has a small group of people who are board members, and he kind of laid out what their plan and vision was and truly asked for feedback. And mine was that they spread their board out around the country so that people have, if we're covering Pennsylvania, hey, if you got Bill Barnes on the board, there are going to be people who know who Bill is. People are going to know who Dan Romanchik is. People are going to know who others are. It doesn't have to be people from the podcast. I'm just using two people from the podcast as examples. And that will really enhance trust. So it's not just seen as a Johnny one note type of operation. So they have plans to build a national organization. And I say good on them. Australia has two. WIA and RASA. I believe that there's another one in Germany besides DARC. I don't know how prominent they are. But, competition sometimes brings out efficiency. And I certainly think here in the States, I'm a life member of the ARRL. I volunteer for them. And I truly hope that those in authority will listen to members and show them respect. And yes, you have control, but do you really have to cram it down the throats of current and former members? I truly hope they will. So, Martin, I had a great time. I saw some great hams, got to visit with people that I haven't seen. For two of my elders, Bill Perkins and Arnold Solomon, who helped me when I was a brand new ham driving a 5-speed Porsche convertible with a Yaesu VX8R HT in the other hand. You notice I had to have one hand on the steering wheel as well as the gearbox. So they helped me do handoffs, and I learned a lot. And I got a chance to visit with them and they're great elders and good friends. So thank you for mentioning that, Martin. Huntsville is the third largest ham fest in the country, and so if you haven't been there, it's a great venue. Thanks, Martin.
Yeah, no problems at all. And I know you said that unfortunately you weren't able to do any interviews there, but in fairness, guys, and don't rough Frank up for it, you really need a couple of people to start doing interviews, because there's a lot going on. There's a lot you have to carry around and that. So, yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Frank. So that's a good one.
And thanks for the comments, Frank.
Yeah, thanks for the comments from our listeners. That's good. Leslie, what have you been up to since the last time we spoke?
Oh, let's start. I've been doing a bit of activity from a place in East London called Pole Hill. So I've been doing a bit of 2 metre 70 sems work there. Very light, portable, just carry on my back. 25 watts and just pottering about. I've also been playing about with a Echo Flow 300 watt inverter for portable use. The reason will become apparent in a moment. I finished renovating those 2 Morse keys that I've been working on. They're very, very good indeed. They're all cleaned up and nice and shiny and not covered in a quarter of an inch of dust. And the other thing I've been doing is we're shortly to have the Silverthorne Radio Club camp, which is this coming weekend, Friday till Monday, I believe. So part of my duties were to check the equipment, and I've gone through the list, Isabel, if you're listening, and got all the bits you need. So what happened was on Friday, all the club members got together. They all had a sheet of paper with a particular item, like 7300 or the VHF kit, and or the barbecue kit, and then they gave me a list of what was missing. So I went through that, and you should see my room at the moment, and it's covered in equipment ready to take. So that's what I've been doing, Martin. That's where we are at the moment.
All right, so you have had some fun, which is good. As I say, there's a lot going on this weekend. Right, what have I been up to? Well, this only started to happen, and I'm hopefully getting some test results back from some of the guys on the talk group. But I was doing some work with Chris on a VoIP system this week, and my VoIP system didn't seem to work very well on Wi-Fi. So anyway, the Wi-Fi, then we noticed that sometimes when I'm on the talk group, I get dropout, and I'm wondering whether it's a Wi-Fi issue. So a couple of my hotspots have gone over onto being hardwired because they're not in those little simple boxes with the Pi Zeros, but they're now on a proper network because they got Raspberry Pi 4s in under the MMDVM board. So we'll give that a try and see if that improves that. Last weekend I did Lighthouse and Lightships on the air with Edmund, and I would suggest we had great fun and quite a bit of success, but I'm not going to go any further than that because that steals Edmund's thunder for the next episode. I have been playing with my LCR meter, which we're going to talk about in the feature, but I was quite pleased with that. My next door neighbour tapped on the door at the beginning of the week and said, "Martin, can you fix this for me? It's a TYT TM600 VHF mobile rig, not an amateur rig. He's got a licence for it, so that's fine." And I fixed that for him. It was a bit interesting, but it works now. Had a birthday last week. Colin publicised that all over the internet, I know. And the family bought me something that I'd pretty much convinced myself I wasn't going to buy. Not because I didn't want one, it's because I had a feeling I wouldn't use it, because I've got a number of HF rigs and a number of them don't get used as often as they ought to. But I bought another HF rig. Now, what did I get? I got a QRP Labs QMX Plus kit. So I'm going to be
Ooh.
So I'm going to be building that over the next few weeks. I'm not rushing it because I spoke to Hans about this, and I talked about how you should build kittens and take your time. So this will slowly get put together, and I'm having great fun. I've read it's about 85 pages in total for just the construction manual, which covers both the instruction manual and how to wind the transformers. So, well worth great little documents anyway. And as we get closer to it working, I'll tell you more about it. Add some VHF and UHF contacts as you would expect on VHF and UHF. And last but not least, on the Sunday this goes out, Sunday the 24th of August, Edmund and myself will be doing British Inland Waterways on the air from Runnymede down near Windsor, where one of our most important UK documents, the Magna Carta, was signed. So if anybody hears this early on Sunday morning and wants to come up and work us, I'm sure we'll probably on either 40 or 20 metres in the UK. That's what I've been up to. And the guys are still busy on the international cat and international dog events throughout the month of August. So it's been a busy month. So that's what I've been up to. All that's left now is for me to thank the guys for turning up, and we'll continue the next part of the podcast. I'd like to thank Mr. Frank Howell, K4FMH.
Thank you, Martin. Great time as always.
Yeah, great to have you, Frank, obviously. I'd like to thank Mr. Leslie Butterfield, G0CIB.
Thanks for having me on, Martin.
That's great. And Mr. Bill Barnes was on a hard stop, and he's had to leave. Bill Barnes, WC3B. So thanks, Bill, for being here. Right, 73, guys, and we'll move to the next part of the podcast. 73.
Cheerio.
73.
Keep your amateur ham radio podcast advert free by donating less than a length of coax. Visit www.ICQPodcast.com/donate now. For all the news, links and information, visit www.ICQPodcast.com.
And now it's time to have a look at the news in brief with me, Colin M6BOY. It's starting to be conference season in the UK. In a couple of weeks' time, we've got UK Hamfest, and then running after that, a few weeks after, is the RSGB convention. Now they're starting to flesh out more of the talks that are going to be happening there, including talks on PCB design for low voltage switch modes power supplies. There's also going to be discussions in relation to propagation, and there's also going to be the IRTS youth officer will be over in the UK talking about how young people are getting more involved in amateur radio in Ireland. Holding that theme of getting people involved, the RSGB have announced as well that there'll be a Women in Amateur Radio panel discussion, and it'll be highlighting the journey of 5 women who enjoy different aspects of the amateur radio hobby, and as they trying to get women more involved in the hobby. The convention takes place on the 10th and 12th of October. Tickets are still available, so we'll pop a link to this on the ICQ Podcast webpage for you, so you can get more information on that for you. Radio Club of America has announced registrations open for its 2025 Technical Symposium and 116th Award Banquet. The symposium will include a number of presentations which will later be made available on YouTube, and the event takes place in Washington DC in the end of November. So if you want to get involved in this opportunity for you, again, links on ICQPodcast.com for you to get involved there for you. Hamshack Germany will host the Bochum Space Days event in September between the 19th and the 21st. The event takes place at the Bochum Observatory with a focus on the future of amateur radio satellites and related space projects. Two-day event will offer lectures, presentations, tours, education centre for space and environmental research. So they're going to publish a full schedule soon, but if that's of interest to you, certainly check out our webpage for more information for where to find that there. And we'd also like to thank listener Graham Cowan, Golf 7, Lima Mike Foxtrot, for letting us know that the Telford and District Amateur Radio Society would be looking forward to seeing you at their Hamfest on Sunday the 31st of August. So basically, it's going to be taking place at the Harper Adams University Sports Hall. for the Hamfest. So there's more room, more tables, more space to be there, etc. And you're going to have all the wonderful usual things you'd expect to see, loads of these, etc. There's also a note here that the GQRP Club are joining them again for this Saturday Build-a-thon buffet as well. So that's going to be a great opportunity there to take part with those guys there. So that's the Telford and District Amateur Radio Group Telford Hamfest taking place on Sunday the 31st of August. More information on ICQPodcast.com for you to check that out. Right, now we're heading to our feature this episode, which is Handheld LCR Meters. As always, hope you enjoy.
And now for this episode's feature from the ICQ Podcast.
Hi guys, for this feature, I wanted to tell you about a device I bought a few weeks ago. It's a handheld LCR meter, so it does inductance, capacitance and resistance. Now, in fairness, there are a fair number of YouTubers who've done reviews on this product. However, my review is based on the machine that I physically bought, and nobody is paying me to say this. So hopefully mine's a fair review. Now, the one I went for was a Zoyu, and I'll spell that, Zulu Oscar Yankee India. And then the model I went for was the Delta Quebec 02 digital LCR bridge meter. Now, there is a 01 version, and the 01 version may actually be more what you wanted, but I thought for the few extra pennies, I would go for the top of the range and get one extra function, which I'll tell you about in a minute. Okay, so what's in the box when it arrives? Well, a lovely LCR meter. It looks like a bit like the size of a big multimeter, but it's good. It has a large colour display on it. The buttons are large, which helps with my big fingers. Hi. And it has 3 sets of test leads and an isolation sheet. Now, I'll tell you about the isolation sheet a little bit later. Right, what did I pay for this thing? Well, I paid just under £72 UK price at the time of purchase. Your margin may vary, it may go up or down on the internet as they do. What functions did it do? Well, the functions is it tests resistance, it tests capacitors, inductors, impedance, electrolytic capacitors, and my one tests the internal resistance of a battery. The O2 does battery resistance, and I'll tell you more about that in a while. On the sub-range, it will also give you reactance, quality factor, and ESR. So quite a nice range of information you'll get when testing. It's powered by a internal lithium-ion battery, which is great. It's rechargeable by a USB-C lead, which comes in the box. Great. We're always pleased to get a charging lead. And the other things you can do with it is, if new firmware becomes available, you can upgrade the firmware via the USB lead to bring your unit up to the latest version. And also, the USB lead could be used to control your device with SCPI, the standard instrument protocol. So a lot this thing can do. Now, I did mention it will do internal battery resistance. We'll talk about that in a little while. So, various input ports. Well, on the front, you've got various input ports. You've got the little slots where you can push your components in, the legs of your components, your resistors or capacitors or inductors. And in auto mode, it will just go off and tell you exactly what it is and what its value is. There's also a set of test leads, probes, and the 2-pin test probe is, I think, for use with testing components on a circuit board. Now, I tell you that this, I believe, can do circuit board testing, and I have done some and it worked very, very well. There's also a 4-wire Kelvin clamps, which gives you the best readings on your device under test. Now, there's also another set of 4-wire Kelvin connectors, which are used to test the battery. They're test batteries. And they plug into a different connector on the top of the unit, and you can then measure the voltage of a battery and its internal resistance, which is interesting when you're trying to determine if a battery is starting to fail. Right, moving on from that, what can I do? Well, measurement functions. You can either leave it in automatic and it will decide what it is and tell you, and it's pretty good at this anyway in automatic. But you can set it to be in resistance, capacitance, inductance, impedance, electrolytic capacitors, and for the battery, the internal resistance. Now, I said that this is an LCR meter. It's interesting that you don't just have one frequency to test, say, inductors or capacitors. And it's interesting changing the frequencies and seeing how it affects the component under test. So you can test at 100 Hertz, 120 Hertz, low frequency stuff. You can test at 1 kilohertz, 10 kilohertz, and 100 kilohertz. So you can use lots of different frequencies. For the test leads, you can actually set the voltage you want to put across the test probes. So remember I said you could do in-circuit testing? You can set the test probes down to test at 0.1 of a volt, which no way should turn anything on. 0.3 of a volt or 0.6 of a volt. So if you're testing in circuit and you don't want to be interfering with things, you can set the voltage. You have a measurement speed option where you can do 1, 2 or 4 seconds, so it depends on how often it refreshes. And the other thing you can do also is test for tolerance, which is a real useful thing. Now, resistance measurement. Carbon resistors. This is just a matter of plugging them in and away they go. Wire wound resistors have inductance, which will give us a better picture of the device. So if you plug a resistor in its wire wound, it'll probably tell you the resistance and its inductance via the wire wound. Values you can measure resistance-wise on this is between a short circuit 0 ohms and 10 megohms. Would have liked it to have gone up to 20 or 30 meg, but beggars can't be choosers, hi. On capacitance range, make sure you have the capacitor fully discharged before you put it into the device. You don't want to blow the device, so I always either short them out or put them on my capacitance discharge box to discharge them properly. It says here that the values are between 0 microfarad and 100,000 microfarad. So quite a range. Once again, you have test frequencies of 100 Hz, 120 Hz, 1 kHz, 10 kHz, and 100 kHz. And you can decide what voltage you want to put across them, whether it's 0.1, 0.3, or 0.6. There's also a mode for testing electrolytic capacitors, and on its sub-mode it will tell you the ESR of the electrolytic, so that's quite nice. Now on inductance, it'll measure inductances between 0 henries and 100 henries, which is, very nice. It worked very, very well when I was doing the test with it. And again, you have the same adjustment of frequency and voltage. Now, something I actually did for a bit of fun was I decided to measure the inductance of a little loudspeaker. So I connected it up and it told me the inductance of the speaker. But I put it on 1 kilohertz and I could actually hear the 1 kilohertz coming out of the speaker, which was quite nice. It proved it was working. It said it was an 8 ohm loudspeaker, and I think the inductance meter showed it at about 6.2 ohms. So, Yeah, inductance on a loudspeaker changes depending on frequency you're using. Right, battery testing. Once again, you've got a 4-wire battery tester and you plug it in the cable into the top. Now it says here, do not feed AC into the socket. This, whatever you do, because you'll ruin the device. The test voltage can measure batteries up to about 60 volts. You don't want to go above 60 volts. And this will tell you the battery voltage and its internal resistance, which will allow you to work out whether it's going to fail or not in the near future. As I say, I did mention that there are firmware upgrades available if you want to upgrade yours or a new version comes out. And they're available from Zoyu at http:// and I'll phonetically pronounce the next bit, Zulu Oscar Tango Echo Kilo Tango Oscar Oscar Lima Sierra.com. Zotek Tools, and that's available. Now, it comes with a great little manual. I was very impressed with it, and I went to their website and I actually downloaded a PDF version and printed it out, because I like to do that so I can scribble all over the PDF. But at the end of the day, I keep the nice new manual clean and tidy, which is what you should do, I think. It does everything I've asked it to do so far. And, do I think it's worth doing? Well, yeah, I think it was worth purchasing. And hopefully, I haven't put you off. But if you are thinking about you wanting to be able to check devices, well, it could be useful. One other last thing I was thinking of while I tell you about this, you can set it up to tell you tolerance. So if you're, for argument's sake, measuring resistances and you want a 5% tolerance on them, you can set it up so that it knows what its 5% tolerance. You put a resistor in and it's out of that 5% tolerance, it will go no. So, if you're testing a batch of components to build something, you might want to make sure your tolerance is correct as well. I hope this was of interest, and for those of you who buy it, enjoy. Those who don't want to or have got something better, well, that's great as well. I hope this was of use.
The ICQ Amateur Ham Radio Podcast, serving the amateur ham radio community fortnightly since 2008.
Well, everybody, I really hope you enjoyed our features episode on the Handheld LCR Meter. And as always, feel free to send on your thoughts either via the ICQ Podcast webpage or via the various social media channels. Now, as always, we'd like to thank our monthly subscription donors in helping us out, pay our way and keeping this show advert-free for you. If you found value from today's show, please also consider supporting us. All you need to do is go to ICQPodcast.com/donate. Select one of the options there that best represents the value you got, or alternatively, select a value yourself, send it our way, and everything you send our way pays our running costs and keep your show advert-free. We'd also like to thank Frank Howell, K4 Foxtrot Mike Hotel, Bill Barnes, Whiskey Charlie 3 Bravo, and Leslie Golf 0 Charlie India Bravo for their very kind thoughts, considerations and time that they donated to this episode. So thank you very much, guys, for your thoughts from there. Right, okay, well, that just about wraps up episode 463 of your ICQ Amateur Radio podcast. Mention this in the news roundtable. Our next episode will be released at the weekend of UK Hamfest, but we'll be having a team there. So if you're in the UK going to Hamfest, please look out for the orange shirts. Feel free to come along, say hello, let us know what you like about the show. And as I say, we'll be happy to chat with you. We're looking forward to catch up with you guys all at UK Hamfest on the first weekend of September. Right, well, that just about wraps up the show, so I'm going to bid you all 73s, continue to enjoy our wonderful hobby, and we'll catch you again in a fortnight's time. 73s all.